Tonight, we have 3 out of the 4 WRL Regional reveals. We have the 2025 WRL Schedule Matrix release, and we have the WRL Double Header Wheel coming at you. All of this and more in 20 seconds. Hey, fellow fanatics, welcome to the Fanatically Real broadcast sponsored by Sport Management Solutions, your one-stop shop for all your athletic communication needs. How is everybody on this Wednesday night? We are back in the saddle after being off for a week. Let me know how the video is tonight. Hopefully, you'll at least still be able to hear my voice. We got a couple extra people in the house this week, so extra devices are being attacking the Wi-Fi right now, so I don't know how the show is going to show up. I see 6 people on right now. If you are out there, type in a hello and say hi. We'll get you up on the screen tonight. Should be a fairly quick show tonight. A couple of topics, a couple of graphics to run through for you all tonight. The big thing tonight is the WRL Double Header Wheel that we have to spin tonight, but that's going to be at the end of the show, and we'll talk about it whenever we get there. I see our first comment up. Saw 10 people on there, and then it dropped off to 6 really quick. Katie, how are you? Hope you are doing well. So first thing we wanted to talk about is the regional reveals for the WRL. So as you all know, we kind of reduced Tracy out there with us as well. Tracy, how are you? We reduced the regional count down to 48 or 4 regions, 48 teams this year. We also then did the WRL Wheel of Regional Power, where everybody got to pick where they wanted to play for the year. And then one lucky person in each one of the regions got the opportunity to pick what the regional mascot was going to be for the year. We're going to reveal those tonight, and then we have some extra stuff to go along with it that happened within the hour before the broadcast went down. Paul, how are you? In the middle of dinner prep, what are you cooking tonight? Hopefully it's some kind of steak. I need a picture of it whenever you're done with it. Shoot it out over on Discord. So Region 1, MJ out there with us as well. MJ, how are you? Hopefully you're feeling better. So Region 1 ended up getting awarded to, or at least the naming of the region awarded to Ty Purcell. Erica with us as well. Hey, Erica. Trevor's out there. Jennifer's out there with us. Man, lots of people out there. I love to see you all. Thank you all for being here tonight. So Ty Purcell was the one that was able to name the region, Region 1. And she decided to select something that we had not used before. I'm going to show you both the logo that she came up with and the AI art to go along with it. But what she came up with was Loch Ness for Region 1. Here is the logo in the bottom right-hand corner. There is the AI art there taking up the full picture. Paul says, reheat of leftover ribs from Father's Day. That still sounds pretty freaking good. I'd eat that. All right, so that was Region 1. I'm going to put my face back up here as we talk about Region 2. So Region 2's awarding went to Matt Berger. Matt sometimes is a little hard, a hard guy to get a hold of. But in this case, I reached out to him on email this morning, then shot him a text, and about 7:32 tonight, about an hour before we went live, Matt reached out to me. We have come up with a consensus of what Region 2 is going to be called, but we're still working on the logo and the art. So Region 2 and all the people that are in that region, you are going to be the Red Dragons this year. So that is a locked in done deal, Red Dragons. We will work on the art between now and next Wednesday, and then we will reveal that next week. But one of the other regions that did conclude and get their name and brand is Region 3. Matt Kroll was the honoree for naming that one. We gave him a couple of ideas. He ended up coming up with a image that we used last year for the first time. We are going to be in Region 3, and I say we because that includes me. We are going to be the Cerberus again this year. MJ says, Woot. I'm going to assume that's because I think she's in that region too. So even though it's not the Blue Dragons, she gets to be a dragon again. It will be the Red Dragons this year. Trevor says, shouldn't it be called the Champions region? Actually, that's going to be Region 4 as our defending champion is in Region 4. And he was the one that actually got honored with naming the Region 4. I think you are, MJ. I think you have been stuck with that enough between the Gold Dragons and the Blue Dragons, and now you're going to be a Red Dragon. I think you are stuck being a dragon no matter what the color is. All right, so Region 3, Cerberus, Matt Kroll got to make that call. And then, as we just said a few seconds ago, Brian Ware, last year's champion, end up getting to name Region 4. They actually had a vote in that region, and they came up with Kraken, which is an oldie but goodie here around the FSA. So there is the logo in the bottom right-hand corner. There is the AI art for that, and I know that we're going to do our due diligence to make sure that the Red Dragon region looks just as good as the rest of them. In fact, after Matt gave me the thumbs up that they were definitely going to be the Red Dragons, started looking for art already. Got a couple ideas to throw out at him. So we'll be working on that in the upcoming week. Next Wednesday, we will reveal what Region 2 the Red Dragons is going to look like. All right, so the next part of the show is we are going to reveal the WRL Schedule Matrix and what that looks like. So let me prompt this with a few things to kind of get you in the right mind frame of thinking about how this went down. So for those of you who also play in the APFL, what we wanted to do with the WRL this year was make sure that the bye weeks matched up in a favorable way for any time that you play an in-division opponent. In previous years, it has always been, or in this 12-team, 14-game schedule that I've used since the beginning of time, we always had the in division weeks as 4, 5, and 8, and then again at 11, 12, and 14. Well, when you compare that to the NFL schedule and the buys this year, that didn't work out the greatest. So I wanted to come up with something that complemented the bye week schedule the best. I'm going to show it to you here in a second. I wanted to let you know that I even made a change earlier today as I was looking over the schedule again, and I'll show you what that is in just a second. But let me get it up on the screen for you all so you can stop listening to me flap about it. So here is the WRL 2025 schedule matrix. So what you're going to see is a bunch of letters and a bunch of numbers. Everything that is remember, each one of these regions are going to be broken into 3 divisions of 4 teams. So this schedule is going to apply to every single one of the regions. All the A's are going to be Division 1, all the B's Division 2, and all the C's Division 3. What I ended up changing was the Week 13 and Week 14, and you'll see why here in a second. So as I had the schedule built before, the divisional matchups are in green. So they are going to be in Weeks 3, 4, and 7, and then 11, 13, and 14. Now, I always like that same pattern that happens at the beginning of the year to match the pattern at the end of the year. Meaning, if you were to play in Week 3, I want you to play the same opponent in Week 11. If you play an opponent in Week 4, I want you to play that same opponent in Week 13. But I started looking at the buys. And in Week 3, 0 buys. And when those 2 teams would match up again, it would be in Week 11, there would be 2 buys. And then in Week 4, there's 0 buys. And when those 2 teams matched up again, it was going to be in Week 13 with 0 buys again. I didn't feel like that was fair because in Week 7, where there's 2 buys, those 2 teams that are supposed to match up against each other would match up again in Week 14 where there are 4 buys. So what I ended up doing was just flip-flopping Week 13 and Week 14's opponent. So if your opponent you play in Week 3, you will play again in Week 11, but the opponent you play in Week 7, you are now going to play in Week 13, and the opponent you play in Week 4 is now going to be in Week 14. So it balances the buys out just a little bit better. And if you follow along with me here, we'll show you what that looks like. We're going to use the team A1 as the example, and we'll go to Week 3 as we're looking at this. So I don't know if you can see my mouse when it comes over here on the screen or not, but the A1 is right here where the A1 plays A4 in Week 3. So A1 and A4 should play against each other again in week 11. So let me mouse over here to week 11 and show you where that is. That is the A1 and the A4 right there. Now, before, in the week 4, you were going to, if you were A1, you were going to play the A3, and then you would have been playing them again in week 13. But because of that bounce that I did because of the buys, A1 and A3 now play each other in week 14. Let me get my mouse up there in the right spot. A1 through versus A3 are now in week 14. And then in week 7, where A1 plays A2, they are now going to play in week 13. So balance the buys out a little bit more. And I'm going to leave that up on the screen as I talk about this just a tiny bit more. I did this without any thought or any reservations of what the double header wheel spin was going to do to this. I wanted to treat this as if this was a 14-week, 14-game schedule, regardless of the wheel. Now, let me pull my face back up. That way you all can kind of understand. Maybe seeing my mouth will help explain a little bit better. We want to make sure that we get 14 games in this year. But to be able to do the playoffs that we do in a deluxe league like we do in the FSA WRL, we needed to reduce our regular season playable weeks by 1, keep the games still the same, which means we needed to get 14 games completed and competed in 13 weeks. To make that happen, one of those weeks needed to be a doubleheader week because of the way our playoffs go, as we're taking the top 4 teams from each one of the regions to play against each other. And then ultimately at the end, where each one of the regional winners play down until we have our world championship game. So to make that happen, we need to get 14 games in 13 weeks. Now, we've done doubleheaders before. We started it 1 year, 2 years in a row, I think, on Yahoo. Wasn't the greatest of ways of doing it because Yahoo doesn't recognize doubleheaders. I think we did it 1 year at the beginning of the season. Then it was a lot of work for me to keep up with that change in the win-loss records throughout the whole season. The next year we did it at the last game of the season, a little bit easier to keep track of because it was just the last game that I had to worry about. The good thing is now that we do this on my fantasy league, MFL, it will allow us to do double headers a whole lot simpler than what we've done in the past. So here's what that's going to look like. I'll pull the wheel up in a second and show you what it is. When we get the number on the wheel of the week that is now going to become the doubleheader week, what happens is that week absorbs the following week. And those 2 weeks worth of games now sit in that week that is the doubleheader week. In this case, as an example, let's say we spin the wheel and week 5 comes up as the doubleheader week. Excuse me, let me get a drink real quick. So we spin a 5. That means week 5 also absorbs week's 6 schedule, and that becomes a doubleheader week, and everything shifts to the left 1 week so we can get our 14 games in 13 weeks. Again, like I said, look in this schedule matrix. I wanted to make sure that was a standalone schedule without any consideration of what that doubleheader week could be, because it really could end up being any week. We don't know if it's going to end up being the doubleheader ends up being 2 out-of-division games in the same week, if it ends up being 2 in-division games in the same week, or if it ends up being 1 in and 1 out in the same week based on the way the schedule is built. All of that to say this, let me get that wheel pulled up for everybody. Let me move it over onto the other screen so we can get it full size. So hopefully everybody can see this. It takes me just a little bit of time because, you know, I'm old and the screen across the room is a little far out of my eyesight. Oh, that's a beautiful sight. All right. Let me pull that up now for everybody to see, and then I'll explain how this is going to happen, because now it is time for the WR Doubleheader Week wheel. Here's how this is going to go. We are going to shuffle the numbers on the wheel, and we're going to spin it. First spin does not do anything. What we're looking for is that number to appear twice in these spins. So going back to our example of 5 being the doubleheader week, 5 would become the doubleheader week if 5 was to come up as the first number twice. Once that first number comes up twice, that is our doubleheader week. And we will continue to spin until we get a number that shows up twice. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. If not, I'll pause for about 30 seconds for you to ask any questions for the 6 of you that are still out there. Everybody's been bouncing in and out tonight. We've been as high as 10. We had 8 just a second ago. We got 6 now. So even for the new people that are out there watching tonight, if you have any questions about this, ask your question as well. As you can see, the numbers on the wheel are 1 through 13. Why 1 through 13 and not 1 through 14? Well, 14 can't be the doubleheader week since we are absorbing week 14 into week 13 if it happens to be the week. After week 14, there is nothing to absorb, so that's why the wheel has 13 numbers on it. So, again, I'll wait we'll do 30 seconds now, and we'll get it all the way up to the 16-minute mark to see if anybody has any questions about what this is going to be. On a 0 bye weeks, yeah, so that was one of the things that really concerned me too, Trevor, was like, even though I was looking at the schedule independently, back in the back of my mind, I kept thinking, what happens if, let's say it ends up being week 8. Now, Schedule Matrix says week 8, and we already know this from the APFL schedule as well, week 8 in the NFL schedule has 6 byes. The week immediately after that is week 9 with 4 byes. Well, it doesn't really matter because the byes don't shift back with it either. But what if you had to play 2 out-of-division games, week 8 and week 9, in that week 8 slot where there are 6 byes? So that's why I wanted to make it completely random. So it would be the same for everybody in that case, right? So that's what we're hoping for. So what we're going to do is we're going to spin the wheel the first time. Let's shuffle this up first. I'll hit the shuffle button here. Hopefully everybody can see that. Wheel change. They are not in order now. Let's spin it the first time. And the good thing is we get the results that show up over here in this other column. So we'll know if it's on the wheel. We're going to shuffle again, and we're going to spin again. And we're going to continue doing this again, like I said, until we get a duplicate. No snake eyes this time, but that is coming soon. We got 10 right now. Snake Eyes will be coming soon after we get this schedule figured out and I can get all of this put into MFL. Then we will do the draft selection shows with the Snake Eyes, and then we'll get our drafts done. We got a lot to get done in the next 6 weeks. I just hit the shuffle button again. I'm going to spin the wheel here and see what comes up. Not good that we brought up the number 8 and it just happened to be the first roll or the first spin. All right, so let's close the 1. Did I end up taking 10 off the board? I sure did. I hit remove on 10, didn't I? Let me see if I can add 10 back on there. I apologize to everybody for that. I need to stand up so I can see where that's at, see if I can get 10 added to the board. I just realized that I removed it. I don't think it's going to let me do it. So here's what we're going to have to do. I screwed up. It happens. Let's see. Sort. Let's see if I can get it to add. I might end up having to start all over. I apologize to everybody for removing 10. Somebody should have caught me before I did that. I can't do anything on my own. All right. Let's pull my face up. Let me get this thing reset. I apologize to everybody for this. Let's open this back up and let's start that again. Y'all know you gotta keep me in line. All right, let's go back over to the thing. I apologize to everybody for that. Made a mistake. All right, do we have 1 through 13 on there now? Let's go over here. I got Mr. Jake in the room with me. Jake, do you see 1 through 13 on there? It does look like 1 through 13, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, let's do this again. Let's hit shuffle and let's start it all over again. I apologize. Give me all the crap you want out there. I don't care. I can take it. All right, 10. First number. We are not doing remove. We are just doing close. Results is 10. Let's shuffle again and spin again. And we got a 3. Let's close. Let's shuffle. Let's spin. Week 8 just wants to keep popping up even after we've closed it down. and start it over again. Let's shuffle. Let's spin again. Week 12. Let's check those results again real quick. Let's close. Results say 10, 3, 8, 12. Let's go back over the entries. Let's hit shuffle. Let's spin again. Oh, week 12. Tell me that's not 2 times now. It is 2, and it's the last 2. So week 12 is going to be our doubleheader week. Let me pull that schedule matrix back up for everybody, see if I can make that happen. So we can give a peek at that. There is the schedule matrix right there. So week 12 is a non-divisional game, but it will absorb week 13, which is a divisional game. There will be 4 teams off that week. You will be, as an opponent in the WRL, will be playing the same team that you would be playing in week 7, which also has 2 bye weeks. So in this case, can't do the math right now because it's hard. I think that means that you end up playing the same team with a total of 6 byes, because you're going to end up playing with 2 in week 7 and you're going to end up playing with 4 in week 12 now. So if you are A1 playing A2 or any of the other variation in week 7 and week 13, those are going to be some really tough games. Now, probably the next question is going to be, well, how do we know who ends up being A1, A2, A3, A4? So here's what I'm going to do whenever we get ready to do that. I'm literally got the divisions already broken down and the teams put into their locations on MFL. I will sit here with a 4-sided die just to try to make it as fair as I can. And I will roll the die, and whatever number I roll, 1, 2, 3, 4, I will pick that team that's in that spot, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they will become the A1, A2, A3, A4. That way, that is completely random as well. I don't want to give anybody an advantage or disadvantage, especially now that we know that week 12 is the doubleheader week with a total of 6 byes being played. I don't want that to be an advantage or disadvantage to anybody. So we'll make it as random as possible. And as we do every year with the WRL, if it's something that doesn't work out, we don't like it, the good thing is it's a 1-year thing and we can always control, delete, and reset it for the next year. All right, so week 12 is your doubleheader week. For those of you who might want to see the schedule matrix, I will put this out in Discord immediately after the show. I will let everybody know that week 12 is a doubleheader week. We will absorb week 13 into week 14. The good thing is the teams that are playing in week 14 are now in week 13 where there's no byes. So if you happen to be the A1 and A3 teams, using that as an example, you play against each other with no byes. And then if you're a week 3, week 11 person, you're playing with 2 byes. So that week 7, week 13 that is now absorbed in week 12 is going to be the tough week, the tough schedule for everybody, whoever you end up playing in that week. And that will get released before we, maybe on next week's show, maybe a little hint to what it looks like on Discord before next week's show, as we reveal the Red Dragons logo and the actual WRL schedule for the year. So I apologize for the wheel and my screw up. Beat me up about it on Discord. I don't care. Next broadcast for us will be Friday night, 7:15 p.m. East Coast time, as we do our other show, the 7th inning stretch for the APBL. In that league, we have reached the halfway point of the season. So we will go over the week 11 results and where we're at up until that point in week 12. The next football broadcast will be next Wednesday on the 25th, regularly scheduled time. We will go over the WRL schedule, and hopefully we will have the Red Dragons region branded. And then hopefully we'll have some more stuff done on the website that we can show you on the some website stuff as well. we'll keep you informed. That's all I can tell you. Keep your eyes peeled to the Discord chat server. Apologize again for the screw up tonight. Thank you all for watching the Fanatically Real broadcast sponsored by Sport Management Solutions. If you liked the show tonight, make sure you go out, like, subscribe, follow us on everything. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I think that's everything. Discord, if you want to jump on the server with us. Make sure you go out and follow our sponsors. Go out and follow Sport Management Solutions and go out and follow the Recast, the official music of the FSA. That is it. Hit us on Discord. Remember, we are Fanatically Real. Everybody have a great night.